Hello everybody and welcome to our second panel discussion of today. It is on the subject of arts, homelessness and the environment. Again, it's quite a big topic, so we are going to do what we can and touch on some different areas of this huge subject. I'm delighted to say that I'm joined here in person by Alex and Ross. They're going to tell you a little bit about themselves later. Alex is from Pathways and they're going to talk a little bit about a garden project that you did. So when we talk about in the environment, it's our relationship and well-being and connection with the environment, and then also the bigger, wider picture of what is happening across the world. We're in the middle of a storm right now here in the UK. We're seeing greater instances of extreme weather, wet, hot, and we're very lucky to be joined, oops, there goes my pencil, by a vet from Kenya, who is a researcher and an architect, and she's going to be talking a bit more about those sort of bigger, really massive discussions about what is happening in the world. Online, oh look at that, like magic, my screen appears. Now please forgive me if I pronounce anybody's name wrong. I am joined by Adatun Washe. Is that right, Adatun Washe? Did I get that right?
Yeah,
Hi.
very right.
Yay.
Hello.
Thank you. And Adatun Washe is from Slum Art in Nigeria. And we are also joined, I think, or going to be joined, I don't know if she's here yet, but Dia Montina from Colombia, who has a fantastic project working in fashion, and hopefully she'll be here any minute, because I really want you to hear about this wonderful project. She was also the winner of one of our awards at the Ahies last year. So, without further ado, I'm going to give you all just a couple of minutes to introduce yourselves to everybody, and then we'll sort of come on to some questions. Alex, do you want to go first?
Okay.
We'll go around this way.
And thank you very much. Thank you for inviting us. Great pleasure to be here. Looks like a really interesting panel to talk with. So yeah, I'm Alex Bax. I'm chief executive of a charity called Pathway. We are, I would say this, I guess, but we are a unique charity in that we're focused on homeless and inclusion health. In the UK, we work within and alongside the National Health Service to improve care and outcomes for people experiencing homelessness and other groups who are deeply excluded and marginalised from society. So we're a health charity working clinically and supporting clinical people within the NHS. And at the same time, in order to do that, we have always thought that we have to, as part of our DNA, have people with lived experience within and around and alongside us to help us understand what we need to work on and what to focus on. So I'm going to introduce Ross, because
Thank you. Hi everyone, it's great to be here. My name's Ross. I'm a lived experience member of Pathway. By the lived experience, meaning I've had kind of experience with homelessness. I've worked on projects with Pathway for about 14 months since I joined Pathway. One of the biggest things what I'd done to start with was we designed, or we co-produced, there was a group of 5 of us, we co-produced a podcast on dual diagnosis. That's kind of someone who has like mental health problems and substance abuse problems at the same time. I've done other projects, and yeah, you'll get to hear in a minute about the huge one we've got coming up. In the next few months.
Yeah, and it's a really good one. It's a gardening project, but I'm not going to steal the thunder because it's very exciting. Yvette, do you want to say a little bit about yourself?
Yes. Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here and to see you all. My name is Yvette, as she said, and I'm an architect and researcher from Nairobi, Kenya, based in Kenya and London, trying to figure that out. My work revolves around working with within urban informal settlements in Nairobi. Basically, a lot of grassroots-led organizations, women-led, youth-led, that are at the front lines of dealing with the challenges of living in slum dwellings and everything that comes with that. and I was part of the AHI's team to research the sector of arts and homelessness in the global south with a wonderful team of 3 amazing ladies, and we got to really look and understand further what homelessness looks like outside of the Western context, which could be everything from refugees and not having a state country to call home, or living in inadequate conditions that could be corrugated iron sheets over your head that are susceptible to fire and have everything gone in a quick minute, or unsanitary conditions. And that's just a bit about what I look into as a researcher, and currently I'm working to come up with prototypes and co-create solutions to improve living conditions for the majority that basically live in informal settlements in my country and many others.
Yeah. And it's an amazing piece of research available on our website. I can't remember the full title, but it's something about transnational solidarity in the global south. But obviously we now say global majority, because that does sound a bit more representative of what we're describing. Right, I'm going to go onto the screen. Adeton Washe, would you be happy to introduce yourself? Just say a little bit about you and where you're from and your project. Great.
Okay, thanks. Hi everybody. My name is Adeton Washe Adende. Adende. I'm from Lagos, Nigeria. I'm the co-founder of Slum Arts Foundation. We work in the underserved community in Lagos, Nigeria, and basically what we focus on is taking children from the streets, helping people who are homeless, and making sure they have a home, shelter. And one of the most interesting projects we've worked on is we built a school from PET bottle, because we try to use available recyclable materials to build affordable homes, and also educational learning institute for young people in Ijora, Badia of Lagos. So basically, thanks very much, and that's what we do. Thank you.
Amazing, thank you so much. And we're going to hear a little bit more about that, I think, later. Do I have Diamantina yet? Not yet, okay. Hopefully she'll get to introduce herself a little bit later. And we will hear from her and her project Amor Real. So, without further ado, I mean, we're here really to discuss the relationship between creativity and the environment, as well as the bigger issues of survival, I suppose, to put it quite sort of starkly. So, I would love to hear about the project you've been working on, and particularly about the sort of impacts of doing ethical things on participants. That's a question I particularly wanted to put to you two and to Diamantina when she gets here, but do you want to have a go? Yeah.
Shall I start and say a little bit about how we got into this thing?
Yeah, that would be great.
Ross and I, we could talk about that ethical,
that would be great.
What it's like being part of this project.
Yeah.
Because that's been something we've also been thinking about. So the Chelsea Flower Show, first of all, say it's quite a weird thing, and it kind of landed on us as a small charity. Opportunities suddenly sometimes come at you, and through a couple of contacts through my trustees, actually, someone said we should push ourselves into this thing. It's run by a big organisation called the Royal Horticultural Society, which is a grand, august British institution. Turned out they have a kind of competition. For the last several years, they've had some charity funding to fund charities, to partner with garden designers to create special charity message gardens, if you like, at the Chelsea Flower Show, which is a week-long flower show and garden show in the gardens of the Royal Hospital at Chelsea, which has been running for 100 and something years. And these show gardens are amazing confections of gardening, if you like, with plants but it's also, this event is a huge trade fair for gardening and horticulture. It's also a huge kind of social, it's at the Royal Hospital in Chelsea. It means, as it were, every year the Queen or the King comes around and the royals are there. There are lots of celebrities. It's a kind of we were told early on that it generates between 800 million and 1 billion views during the week. That's the kind of coverage globally of this event, which is, and if any of you have watched the BBC coverage, it's lots of nice soft focus pictures of flowers and roses and chat about design and could you use this paving or kind of, so it's kind of lovely. The idea of the charity gardens, I think, was they corporately were under pressure to the event was being criticised from a sustainability point of view and almost from an ethical point of view. And some years ago they began to much more intentionally involve and bring in sponsored, and they pay the full cost of the garden. So it doesn't cost us anything in terms of having to pay anything to be there. But I guess there is a cost with us in that we're realising we have to put a lot of time into it, and they're saying to us that there's a huge opportunity to use the garden, one, to get a message out there to an audience who wouldn't normally be thinking about our kind of issues, maybe to get some fundraising, and a real opportunity for people from our world to get involved in this amazing thing. So it's been interesting. It's entirely new to us, and we keep discovering new weird. It's like you've stepped into a whole world, which is a world of itself, which you knew nothing about, and suddenly we're learning about planting lists. And I don't know, Ross, what do you think of it?
Yeah, it's. God, when I first heard about it, I was like, my God, I remember my nan used to watch it on TV. I had no interest whatsoever in it. I wasn't interested in flowers or plants or gardens, really. We had to try and come up with a message to kind of show to the garden with the design. So it was, for me that was quite easy for that part of input. When I was literally rough sleeping in Westminster about 4 years ago, and it was really strange because I could sit there, I'd sit in the same spot every day. I was waiting to get into a hostel, and you're just ignored by people. The only people what did want to talk a lot of the time would just shout abuse or just kind of just ignore you, basically. Sometimes I'd go and sit in kind of public gardens, parks. There was down by the embankment, Hyde Park, St James's Park. I'd take a couple of hours out each day and go and sit there, and the difference from sitting in the public garden was amazing. Just small talk with people walking by, people saying like hello. I just felt like I wasn't invisible. It was just two complete opposites. So.
And that's been really interesting. And I have to say, there was a moment when we were on a kind of judging. They had a selection process where they were choosing. There were quite a lot of people in the frame, and they were choosing who they went forwards with. And one of our other colleagues with lived experience came to that judging session, talked about some of her experiences, and I could feel that was the moment that the panel were just actually quite rocked back in themselves, and they were garden designers and kind of creative, so nice people who were horticulturists, but they were, you could hear a pin drop after Mandy spoke about her experiences of, again, sleeping out in public parks, actually, and what that's like as a woman. So that was a very powerful, and you could feel they thought we have to have these people. That was.
Yeah. And what's on the screen? Sorry to interrupt you. I suddenly realised we've got pictures, so I thought I'd draw your attention so we know what we're looking at.
So I mean, Ross, you and I were talking about this before. So the creative link is weird because what's on the screen is so we've been working with this amazing garden designer, Alon, and he's designing this doesn't exist yet.
It's not even been made.
So in the creative space, Ross, it's been really interesting, hasn't it? Kind of seeing how they.
Yeah, so they've kind of used I don't know whether it's AI or what kind of design they use on computers. They've had to do all like the top graph to put it through to the RHS. I think we've got about 20 photos in total of it spread around the garden looking at it. One of the amazing things about it is on the other side, it's not on that picture, there's a wall which is made of mycelium. It's absolutely brilliant. So the mycelium, it's like the underneath of kind of like fungus under the actual fruit body of a mushroom, which grows. And it's being built. It was being built in a barn
Wow.
in Devon. Something's happened, so they've got to move it to another place. Hopefully, it will be ready by the time. Everything in the garden has been upcycled as well. A lot of it is actual waste from the RHS show last year.
Brilliant.
So yeah, it's good.
And we've had, and again, there's a weird. So we've been told, and now we've got some PR. So that we've got PR consultants around us saying, "What's your messaging?" and all of that stuff, which is quite new for us as a kind of small charity to have all of this kind of. Slightly feels quite glitzy almost, but really interesting conversations about the metaphors. So and Ross, the group's got really interested in the metaphors which come out of this. So the mycelium is this natural network which connects trees in woods, and they communicate, but it's underground and it's hidden, and yet it kind of is a connector. And for people thinking about the kind of those experiences on the street and the connections that people need to kind of come back to life. Of course, the garden itself has got a pathway through it, and it's not a straight path. It's
challenging.
It's a difficult path, and so there's lots of kind of. We're still learning, I think, how to riff on the theme of what it's communicating.
There's like the pergola that kind of represents a shelter as well. There is, I don't think we see it in there. There's like a boulder. I think is it that boulder there?
Yeah.
There's like water in it, a pool.
Wow.
Which is meant to be for like strength and resilience to water. Just parts of the messages we're trying to get across with it.
And did you have a big sort of input into the design and using your own experiences, or?
I didn't know.
No.
No,
But
I know nothing about.
you know nothing
design of
about
gardens.
gardens. But it's just because you said earlier about your relationship with parks and stuff in your own experience.
Yeah, sure.
So it does feel like your experience is in this garden.
So I've had the only experiences I've had with gardening really. 3.5 years ago, I was in rehab for 6 months, and part of our program was to go down the seafront. I didn't want to do it at first. I was dead against it. It was too cold. We had to plant bulbs, and we got, I think it was a level 1 in horticultural skills. And then last year I started to grow stuff indoors. I've got a 1-bedroom flat. I grew chili plants, all different other plants. This year, the past fortnight, I've ordered, so this is a 1-bedroom flat, and I've just ordered 100 litres of compost.
Wow.
So we'll see what I can do this year.
You're going to be sleeping on compost, right?
I think in terms of the design point, so I think Alan and the designers have spent quite a bit of time with Ross and colleagues, I think, listening.
Yes.
Yeah.
But they're professional, so we don't. As Ross, none of us know how you design a garden, particularly not a garden. The other weird thing about this garden is that it will be built in a week. Today, if you go to the Chelsea Flower Show site, it's grass, it's a park. They take control of it. The week before the show, this is built from nothing.
Wow.
The week after the show, this is demounted to be back to grass, so sustainability. Our garden is then going to move to, so we have a network of hospital teams around the country, so it's actually going to move to be relocated into Derriford Hospital in Plymouth, where we've got a pathway team, and it will be in a big, perhaps, hopefully, have some therapeutic longer term benefit, because we know that nature is just good for people. But so it's a quite weird.
Yeah.
So it's very, in that sense, it's very confected. And actually, you've got really into some of the construction stuff, or something, how they're going to make it look like it's a mature garden.
Yeah.
When it's not. It's all, in terms of creativity, it's made up, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I must admit, I can't wait to see this garden.
Yeah,
I
same.
my experiences of the Chelsea Flower Show are probably from a children's TV show called Blue Peter growing up, and they used to always have it. But this is fantastic, and I really I'm enjoying this reusing, repurposing. It's I think in the homelessness community we are used to using what we can find. If you've been in prison, it's exactly the same. You have to become MacGyver, and and our connection is so strong to our environment. Do I have a Diamantina yet?
She's disappeared on us.
Oh dear, I mean, to be fair, we know there is not equity of access to Wi-Fi, internet across the world. We bear this in mind, and it can be very, very frustrating. So I'm going to pour Adatun Washe, sorry, I'm trying to pronounce your name right. It's been waiting there very patiently. We're going to, in that case, if Diamantina isn't here, we'll think we might move for a little bit now onto this bigger conversation about the relationship of homelessness, the environment, arts. Across the world, things are getting worse. We know it's a real crisis. Actually, I'm going to hand over to you. I mean, we've seen it, sorry, just briefly, we've seen in this country, you know, rising sort of weather issues. It's getting sort of hotter. There's more flooding. If you were here yesterday, you would have seen the Museum of Homelessness speak on a panel. They have been doing a lot of work in this country to raise awareness about hot sweat. So at the moment we have emergency provision when it gets cold, but not when it gets hot. And often heat can kill more people on the streets than cold does. So, and also there's not an equity of access to green spaces across the world. Even something we saw in Brazil, you had to pay in Sao Paulo to really be able to sit outside in a green space. There were a few, but very limited. And just we're seeing how important that is. And I have gone on too much. I'm going to go over to Yvette now, who's going to talk about this sort of wider issue and some of the wonderful things that are coming about. The question will be, it's about radical forms of thinking. You know, you're going to introduce it, and then you're going to tell us a little bit about the radical ways we can actually address this.
Yeah, okay, so maybe we can go to the first slide, but this is the context in which I work in. That's Mathare, Nairobi, the oldest informal settlement. This past year, around April, we had unprecedented floods in the country, and the worst hit was Mathare, where a dam broke far away from the area, and the river rose and basically swept people, their homes, and everything on its path. As you can see, the structures were already inadequate. That's living in a shack condition is not really living without the sanitation that you need. It's a form of homelessness in our reality, in addition to the many that do live rough in the very same environment. So this is becoming a reality more and more. A lot of displacement, migration. It's actually climate change is fueling a lot of the migration we're seeing into Europe. The Sahel region, which is just south of the Sahara Desert, has been earlier on before. We are now feeling it, right? We are now seeing the numbers affecting us, whether it's the heat or the cold, but the Sahel region was a critical one that's already been experiencing the heat of global warming. So what therefore is a radical response to this? I think I love the metaphor of the networks of mycelium. The underground networks is really what is going to be a pathway to resilience, not so much the top-down structures, and those grassroots movements are the context in which I see change, not so much government policy, unfortunately, which tends to be slow. And sometimes in this instance, government's response was to further basically force people out. Forced evacuations was the response. So what therefore I think is really just getting together, coming up with ideas, using arts as a tool. On the second slide, I just show a bit about a project that's ongoing. It's simply looking at sustainable materials. In our context, we're looking back at traditional philosophies of living, which were more communal, more rooted in the earth as and the soil as part of who we are as a people, as not separate. Nature was not a thing. Nature, we are part of nature. The soil is part of who we are. We come from and go back into the soil. So that's a really critical philosophy we're looking into. So I have samples we've been working on with members of the community on this. How can this be a solution and improved and make blocks, rammed earth as a potential material, sustainable material we take from the ground, right, and build back up this is actually requires labor more than it does
What is it?
capital.
Yeah.
So this is an earth block. It's building with earth. This is a
Wow.
traditional method in the African context, improved with more knowledge that we have through the modern era, but it's just soil, compressed. That's how rocks are made. We're experimenting further on this, but it's as solid as you can get, and waterproof, fireproof. Fire is an issue that's also experienced there. So sustainable materials, flood prevention, obviously raising the levels, upcycling, communal building is already in existence. People just come together in emergencies. It is the community, it's the mycelium underground networks that responded when government response was non-existent. So people just came together to help each other, to rehouse, to actually save people from the flooding, as well as skills training. And I write the co-created elements where we'll come together and just create panels of art, pour epoxy into it. It's an effort that's just come together and have a party after that. And that also means we're not looking for funding or aid, or it's going to be mutual aid. We work with what we have, because again, those systems take long, they take time. You have to meet certain requirements that might not be aligned culturally, or in an emergency as well. What are you going to do when thousands of people suddenly need a home? We just have to build it together. So that's a radical form that we are exploring and learning, making mistakes through, and practicing to see where that goes. But a lot of it is rooted in going back to our traditional ways of existing and thinking and being.
That's a wonderful demonstration of it's co-creation, it's co-creating in harmony with the environment, but ultimately you're building community.
Yes.
I think that is key.
And actually, community already exists. The mycelium is there. It's just
Yes,
underground. It's just going into it, working with it, and
nurturing community, definitely.
It, yes.
That's brilliant, and I think that would bring us. You probably got another slide.
No,
you don't know. You
that's
haven't.
it.
Good. Sorry. I was practicing all morning. I promise you. I even had Yvette coaching me, but I obviously didn't do very well. Oh, great, thank you, guys. That's just going to go around our audience. And just on a note on that, I do believe the Museum of Homelessness have in their collection a story about a house built out of cob, the cob house. So that's another traditional method of house building, which I think comes from this part of the world. But it's a really fascinating subject that we can actually build with what is already here and not pillage nature. Sorry, Addison will say. I really want to hear about your fantastic work. You've been building out of plastic bottles and also doing some craft projects as well, I believe, upcycling. Yeah, tell us a little bit more about those.
Okay, hi again, good afternoon. To make my conversation a little bit more elaborate, to have a mental picture of what I'm saying, if I can share my screen, you can have a visual representation, so the conversation will be quite very shorter to save time.
I think we've got some photos added to us, Moshe. Oh great, there you go. Is that what you wanted? Might not be.
Oh, I can't see it.
Yeah, unfortunately we can't share screens because We've got some photos up which we've sort of put up for you.
Okay, not a problem. What I do majorly is this: I pick up PET bottles from this. So we talk about people living out of home, but people live majorly where I work on garbage. So garbage is used to once what they call sand filling, to kick out dirt to fill the soil because it's on swamp. So they fill the soil with swamp. That means the houses sink with time. So we have to look for a upcycling material that can make these people who find themselves out of home where they live now, to have a bit more cozy environment. And also, just in case it rains and it floods, the PET bottle can still float. So one of the things we do is the children goes around, pick the PET bottle, PET bottles together, bring it to us. As an artist, I use metal works to create a cage for these PET bottles, PET bottles as it's called, and convert it into a living either home or school. The major, most visible one that we've built so far is a school. And the kids come from home every day with 5 PET bottles as their school fees. Now, these 5 PET bottles are also used to upscale to build more homes and rest of it. I'm talking about everything built out of PET bottle, from the ceiling to the roofing to everything you can think about. And this has become a source of livelihood for quite a number of people within this community called Ijarabadia in Lagos, Nigeria. And basically that's what we do.
Oh, it's incredible to hear about it. We know about the issues with rubbish, garbage, that is just sort of choking our world at the moment. And again, it's quite inspiring that, to take something so awful and turn it into something so positive is wonderful. And I think it's linking in with what you're saying about nurturing our communities, doing it together, not relying on aid or help. Do you know what I've just had? Because, AHI is all about co-creation. I would love to put in a bid for the Royal Chelsea Garden Show with a co-created project from this panel in itself. Diamantina's here, yes, wonderful. So, yes, I reckon we could smash the Chelsea flower show. But anyway, Diamantina, are you there?
Buenos días para todos.
Hola, Diamantina.
Hola, buen día, ¿cómo están? Muchas gracias por la invitación.
Good morning and thank you for the invitation.
Oh, it's wonderful to have you with us, Diamantina.
Es fantástico tenerte acá con nosotros.
Gracias.
Muchas gracias. Thank you very much.
Would you like to tell us a little bit about your project, which is a fashion-based? Tell us a little
¿Podrías,
bit.
por favor, hablarnos un poco sobre tu proyecto, que obviamente se trata de la moda? Y cuando des tus respuestas, por favor, si podés pausar para yo poder hacer la traducción consecutiva. Gracias.
Claro que sí. Tengo un proyecto de moda que trabaja con personas sin hogar, personas homeless.
Well, I have a project that works with homeless people.
Nosotros nos enfocamos principalmente en la aceptación. Es una casa cultural en la que los jóvenes pueden acercarse cualquier sea su condición.
And we work mainly with the people who come to this kind of institution, the house that we have, because they are welcome to come and work with us there.
Ya pasamos por la etapa años atrás de intentar erróneamente creer que podíamos esperar que los chicos cambien, o esperábamos de pronto como la sociedad, pensábamos como la sociedad, o quizás yo estuve un poco pensando como la sociedad, esperando que ellos transformen.
So we've been working on since the very beginning when we started years ago, rightly or wrongly, we're actually thinking that probably or hoping that people will change just by themselves. But obviously, it's a wish that we had. Unfortunately, it's not just like that, and that's what we discovered.
Es por eso y descubrimos que el trabajo que se debe hacer con ellos debe partir de la aceptación. Por lo mismo, ellos mismos han enseñado a mí en la casa que cualquier sea su condición, son personas maravillosas y ahí he parado de esperar cualquier cosa a cambio. Es un gran aprendizaje que he obtenido de parte suya.
That's why we've been working and trying to let them know that we have to work with them for who they are. They are accepted as they are, so we are not imposing anything. It's important for us to send a message to them that they are accepted. So they come and they are accepted as they are, regardless of their condition, their social condition, gender, or situation with any kind of substance abuse.
Eso es. Soy diseñadora de modas desde hace 25 años.
I've been a fashion designer for 25 years.
Y el proyecto nació debido a mi hermano, Camilo Suero. Él fue un habitante de calle consumidor de crack.
And obviously the project was born in a way because of the death of my brother, Camilo. He was actually homeless, and 25 years ago he actually, so for 25 years I've been a fashion designer, and my brother in the past died because of the abuse of crack on the street, and he was homeless. And that's something that gave me the inspiration to create our project, to create this, what we have here.
De hecho, él fue asesinado por el gobierno de Colombia dentro de una operación macabra en la que desaparecieron a muchos jóvenes que podrían pensar que nadie los esperaba en casa.
Actually, the Colombian government ran a kind of operation where they were trying to make people disappear, because obviously they knew that some of those homeless people were not going to be missed by anyone. So people started to disappear, and that's something that we believe that it was the Colombian government behind it.
Sí, él fue asesinado por el gobierno.
Basically, the government killed my brother.
Sí, entonces cuando apareció la verdad bajo el gobierno de un nuevo presidente, nos confesaron lo que sucedió y nos devolvieron los restos de mi hermano. Empecé a crear esta fundación y me mudé para vivir en el gueto.
So basically what happened is when the truth came to light, obviously under a new government, after the government that was actually guilty of this kind of murder, the new government gave us the remains of my brother back. So, and that's the moment when I started to create this wonderful project that we have here. It was something that I wanted to do in memory of my brother.
Amazing. Could you tell us a little bit more detail about what happens and where you get the materials from? And yeah, that'd be great.
Diamantina, ¿podría por favor comentarnos un poco de cómo funciona, de dónde sacas los materiales que ustedes utilizan allí y cómo es el proceso que ustedes tienen?
Bueno, inicialmente cuando me mudé, eso fue en 2016, cuando empecé el proyecto, llevé conmigo mi taller que tenía en el norte de Bogotá con todos mis materiales de diseñadora de modas fancy o, bueno, mi taller.
So at the beginning, it started in 2016, if I'm not wrong. That's when I started with my project.
Yes.
And basically what I did is that I was in the north of Bogota, which is the capital of Colombia. So I basically grabbed all my stuff and I decided to leave and just come to this place and try to organize something here with the few materials that I had. Obviously, some of them were kind of luxury materials, some of them, but not all of them. So but that's how I actually started with that.
Sí, yo tenía mi tienda en la zona rosa, en Bogotá, así que llevé mis máquinas, mis telas, compré una casa en el ghetto, actually, y me fui a vivir ahí.
I used to have a shop in a very, very kind of chic place of Bogota. It was my boutique. That's where I used to sell my clothes that I used to design. And basically one day I just decided to pack everything up, and even my machinery, everything that I had, my sewing machines. And then I bought a house in the ghetto where I am at the moment. And that's when I started the project.
Wow. Luego, después vino la pandemia y bueno, para resumir, porque es una larga historia, empecé a salir a bordar con los chicos, a hacer bordados como esto que llevo aquí. Son bordados hechos por los jóvenes que consumen. Pues yo salí a la calle para empezar a bordar con ellos. Era una forma de hablar, de conversar, de indagar sus mentes.
So basically, the story is a little bit long, but I'll try to make it short. It started in a way with the pandemic, with the COVID pandemic in 2020. Basically, I decided, because of the situation that we were having, I decided to go out and talk to the people who were on the street, the homeless people who were obviously abusing substances, and I introduced this idea of meeting together. And as you can see, this jumper that I'm wearing is actually knitted, and that's the kind of thing that we'll be doing. And I used to talk to them and try to make them do things and come out of their vice in a way.
Sí, de hecho eso fue antes de pandemia, y para la pandemia ya todos los chicos vivían dentro de mi casa, porque como se puso militarizada la zona y estuvo un poco complejo este barrio, durante esa época ya nosotros llevábamos unos años de compartir los talleres de bordado, así que ya los conocía, y en pandemia no tuve otra opción que decir a todos: entráis a vivir conmigo.
Yeah, basically it started a little bit just the year before the pandemic, when I started talking to these people, these homeless people, these young kids as well, because some of them were actually kids in a way. So when the pandemic hit in 2020, because of the confinements, and the area was militarized in a way, so no one could be out and about. So that was the moment when I took in all those kids who were on the street, those homeless kids, and opened my doors, and that's how they became part of my house, of this organization. So basically that was the beginning of this amazing project that we are doing.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Muchísimas gracias, Martina.
Could I just ask,
Una pregunta más.
what is the impact, do you think, of sort of working with textiles and ethically on the participants?
Sí, ¿cuál es el impacto que tiene trabajar con textiles y con materiales de una manera que también proteja el medio ambiente, que sea positiva para nuestro medio ambiente?
Claro, bueno, nosotros actualmente hoy solamente trabajamos con materiales que conseguimos en recolectas, incluso en la basura con los jóvenes, y también en campañas que hacemos con nuestros seguidores para que nos envíen ropa usada, que nos sirve en principio para que los chicos, cuando llegan a pedir para bañarse, puedan pues como cambiarse todos los días, pero también nos sirve como materia textil. Es como upcycling.
Yeah, so basically we only work with recycled material. Any kind of material that we can collect, that people can donate to us, even things, I mean, sometimes we go out and start, going through the rubbish and trying to find material, textiles there, because they are sometimes discarded like that. And we also have some campaigns where we ask people to send us donations, clothes donations, all clothes. And those clothes have two main purposes. First of all, whenever we have one of these new kids coming in and they don't have anything to wear, so after they have a shower in the house, they could use some of those clothes. So that's the first use that we give to those clothes. And the second one is that we use them to create our own product. So to make it a little bit more chic in a way and create what we do.
Y algo importante, nosotros recogemos las cobijas que ellos usan en la calle para arroparse cuando viven pues en el suelo, en el parque. Ellos duermen con cobijas y nosotros recolectamos las cobijas en casa y esas cobijas son como nuestro main material, como lo principal y más reconocible por las personas que compran nuestra ropa, porque se ha convertido como en un sello icónico de nuestra marca, que es como limpiar la cobija, restaurarla y convertirla en abrigos, chaquetas. Todo eso nos ha hecho como una marca reconocida y popular.
Okay. Yeah, and one of the most important things or materials that we have is actually the blankets that homeless kids and homeless people use to sleep on the street, the parks, etc. So we actually go out, collect those blankets that have been used to rough sleep, and we bring them here and we basically use them. We recycle them, and that's what we use to create some of our our brands. So in a way that these blankets become like an icon. So you will have a piece of clothing that actually comes from a blanket that has been used by a homeless person, and that's something really beautiful, and it's our trademark in a way. That's what people know, that's what they are getting. So and it has a very, very important and amazing symbolism.
Wow, this is amazing. Thank you so much.
Es maravilloso lo que ustedes hacen.
We're going to move now to questions, both online and in the room. So thank you for sharing. Honestly, I think
Vamos a pasar preguntas.
Sorry, I keep forgetting about the translation. Sorry, Alex. So I think you can see now why this project won Arts and Homelessness Project of the Year back last year at our awards. Does anybody in the room, first of all, have any questions they'd like to put to any of our panel members? Oh yes, we have one over there. Someone's going to come to the mic. Just keep going, Ronnie. This way. Warmer, warmer, warmer. Hot. Yes, well done. Just like the climate.
Ay, hola, saludos desde México. Está increíble lo que haces. I just have a question about the mental health impact that it has for them. I think it might be very good.
Yeah.
Te lo digo en español mejor.
Yeah, you can say in Spanish.
Que me gustaría saber, o bueno, más bien que nos contaras el impacto que tiene en la salud mental de las personas, y nada más también contarte rápido que nosotros tenemos una revista y alguna vez hicimos un taller de knitting con los hombres y tuvo un impacto muy positivo.
Sí, la mayoría de nuestro público son hombres, eso es lo más impresionante.
So the most amazing part is that most of our clients are men.
Not clients,
Sorry.
There's the guys, the boys.
No, the boys actually work with us. So the ones who are knitting, they are boys.
Yeah, sí, porque trabajamos con bordado, que es algo como digamos estándar, ¿cómo se dice? Estereotipado, como un trabajo de mujeres, un trabajo antiguo de abuelitas y eso.
Because obviously the type of knitting that we do is usually connected to what a grandma actually used to knit. So it's kind of a bit ironic that these young lads are actually knitting in the same way.
Sí, es embroidery. Embroidery. El impacto mental creo que más positivo puede ser el tema de que bordar, embroidery, es exactamente como una meditación.
And one of the main things is obviously when we see all these people, these young boys, lads, they actually see embroidery as a way of meditation, relaxation for the mind. So that's one of the impacts in terms of mental health.
Wow.
También es importante mencionar que la mayoría de los jóvenes con los que trabajamos ya llevan 5 años con nosotros, 4 años, bueno, 3, 2, 1, etcétera. Pero de los más antiguos, pues ya tenemos un grupo importante de personas que ya no habitan la calle, con su trabajo, con el bordado, nosotros mismos pagamos por sus habitaciones y ellos han mejorado su autoestima pues mucho, inclusive si aún consumen, porque ese es el punto en el que hablaba al principio de la aceptación, que no sabemos en qué medida es un proceso muy lento el dejar la droga.
So one of the things that we do is that a group of these young boys and men, they have been with us for over 5 years, so for 4 years, 3 years, but we have a very old group in the sense that they've been with us for a very long time, and they now, with all the embroidery that they do, the work they do by themselves, they don't really need to actually be here. So they leave the house and they even pay themselves a room, or we help them pay a room, and it's having better self-esteem. So their self-esteem and self-worth has improved. And that's something difficult, because obviously we have to remember that some of them might still use drugs. So, and it's difficult, and that's one of the things that I wanted to say at the beginning, that kicking a habit, especially a drug habit, is not an easy thing. So, but they've been working hard, and even if some of them still use or abuse drugs, it's not in the same way.
Thank you so much. I'm so sorry. We are really low on time now. Do you want to say one final thing, and then I'll take one question from online?
Perdón, no tenemos mucho tiempo. ¿Alguna cosita más?
No, solo quería decir que para el efecto de la última pregunta de su reconocimiento, su improve como de mental, sus mejoras mentales, también es bueno que sus familias les reconocen como artesanos y ya no como, digamos, personas solamente drogadictos o ladrones, sino que ellos tienen un nuevo como reconocimiento ante sí mismo como un artesano, y es lo que sus familias poco a poco empiezan a ver en ellos, y empieza un nuevo proceso de reintegración familiar muy lento.
And another very important thing, very quickly, is the fact, and it's very helpful for their mental health, is that the image that they project, especially amongst their relatives or family, is that they are artisans nowadays. So they are not seen as drug addicts or homeless people. So they are someone in life. They are artisans, and they, as such, they can be respected, and that gives a lot of a boost of their self-esteem.
Do we have time to take one question from online? Sorry.
You bang on, so if you want to go 5 over.
Are we all right to go 5 minutes? If everyone's happy with that?
So if you want to do more on the brain, yeah.
Great. All right. I'll take one more question from the room, and then we'll take a question. I've got one at the back from the lady with the lovely red hair.
There you go.
I've been involved at the moment in writing environmental policy and strategy, and I've kind of put at the top around reduce, reuse, recycle, repurpose, that's it. And I wondered whether you had any more that you'd love to have included in that.
Ooh, any more R's?
Restore.
Restore. Replenish. I don't know, that just came to me. I don't know if they heard that question, but the question was, are they heard? Yeah, oh great. I don't know if you had any other suggestions, anyone else? No, that's fine.
Couldn't think of one.
No, I mean, I think
Revolution.
What was that?
Revolution.
Revolution! Yes, I like that. Any more questions? Actually, I'll take another one in the room, if there is one. Yes,
I
lovely.
just have a question about
Oh, sorry, I'll just give you this one.
Oh, sorry, yes, I forgot about the microphone.
Sorry, I just had a question about longevity and the legacy of these projects. It's fascinating, the individual work, and it's so extremely different, which is so representative of what all
Obviamente querías
tackling and facing the same issues of inequality and climate change.
Just pause one moment for the translation, sorry. That's all right. Did you get that, Alex?
Yes, I did, but I don't know if Tina is listening on the other channel. But anyway,
Oh,
it
don't
was
worry.
about the.
Should I just ask the question?
All right, just ask the question, don't worry.
So
That's it.
how do we translate the successes of these short-term projects and the work and energy into long-term gain in terms of the most vulnerable experiencing climate change?
¿Cuál sería el legado de estos proyectos más o menos a corto plazo a un plazo mucho mayor, mucho más largo?
Yeah. I don't know if anyone's got, I mean, it does sound to me, sorry, just my reflection, like these really are sort of projects that are really digging themselves in. You know, Tina sold her house and bought somewhere in the middle of a slum to, you know, create this project and opens her doors. I mean, it's a good question for Pathway, I think, actually.
It's a question we've challenged ourselves with quite a lot because, as I said, the temporariness of this Chelsea Flower Show experience. They required us, before we were selected, to have got a plan for the garden's permanent use.
Oh, that's good.
So that's a good thing, and as I said, it's going to an NHS trust in the west of England. But the complexity, I feel a bit sceptical. Colleagues who've worked in hospitals, the kind of health and safety people arriving saying some of our things are dangerous. You think kind of there's a whole load of, but we're also aware that we're kind of bringing a maintenance cost on an NHS trust, which is strapped for cash because it's going to be a rather lovely thing, and when I've looked at the site where it's going. Clearly, it's a kind of bit of waste ground into one wing of the hospital where clearly they once had a thing, which has not been looked after, which they're saying. So, I'm not sure that our project in it specific of that garden, well, we fingers crossed it work. I think the bigger thing for us in a way is whether that massive media opportunity gets some different conversations in the minds of a large number of people to think about even just some of these issues in a small way. It's maybe more about shifting a small dial in a general population audience who we would never normally be speaking to about these kind of things.
No, that is very true. Your audience there is the one that we don't always reach when we have things like this. People in the room tend to be people that are passionate already about these issues. So it's a really amazing platform that you've got to sort of speak for everyone, for all of us, for homelessness, for the connection with displacement and and climate, and how the environment impacts on us, our own personal environments, and then our impact on it, I suppose, the detrimental impact. Do you want to say something? And then we'll take a question from online.
I look at it from a skills, an empowerment and training sort of process, because you don't know what happens after someone has learned a skill. They'll probably develop much more than you can imagine, and co-create with others. So I think that is part of the conversations we're having, whereas yes, there is the need for that structure to be built, but how else are people picking up that skill? Obviously, our context is a bit different. A lot of people in rural and urban areas still build their own homes. We don't have as much of the systems here that require developers and contractors and these big systems to provide housing. But our hope, and I hope, is that people will just learn and move with it and do what they need to do to get themselves into improved living conditions.
Ada Tunwanshe, did you have anything that you wanted to add? About, the question was about the long-term, yes, we're still on long-term sustainability. I guess in the very fact, the way that you are interacting with the land, you're ensuring longevity, that houses don't get washed away or go in the swamp. I think that's what you were saying earlier. I don't know if you had anything more to add.
Well, no, not directly actually. It's just the earth. It's somewhere where we have to keep it alive.
Yes.
And keep doing the part we need to do to make sure things still stay the way they are meant to be, regardless of wherever we find ourselves, whatever position we find ourselves, whatever location we find ourselves also, be it in the house, on the streets, we have to just keep making sure that the earth still remain where we can call a home, either for those who have a home or those who don't have a home. We just have to make sure that there's a place for people to just stay and use the things that's available to make that happen. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go to online, but just my reflection before I wrap up and we take a couple of comments from online is it's a reoccurring theme of we need to work together, community, co-creation, and this lovely image of mycelium sort of connecting us all, which was brought up recently at a messaging sort of workshop we were doing about Arts and Homelessness International. So I'm delighted you've included a mycelium wall. I think that is the best representation of what we are trying to do here, to get people together. We don't have all the answers, but if we get lots of people together, we're going to have a lot more answers than we did before. Let's go to online and then I will wrap you up. No, all good. Well, we've obviously solved that problem, so thank you so much. And it's been a wonderful morning. Thank you to all my guests. Diamantina from Bogota in Colombia. Her organization is Amor Real.
Diamantina, muchísimas gracias.
Thank you so much. So lovely Adu Tunwoshe from Slum Art in Lagos, Nigeria. Alex and Ross from Pathway. We can't wait to see what happens with your Chelsea Flower Show. And a massive thank you for Yvette as well for all your knowledge and bringing your wonderful brick, which I hope everyone had a chance to fondle. Right. Thank you, everybody. I was trying to make sure everyone got through.
Thank you so much to Katie for navigating that massive subject so beautifully, and to Yvette who came up with this idea of this panel to begin with, which is wonderful. A couple of FYIs, which are that we are creating this quality framework for arts and homelessness. The second one, which has a section on environmental sustainability and everything that's connected with that. Online, please give any ideas for it, and in the room we have a flip chart there. It's wonderful also just to hear about Yvette's previous work in the transnational work, building the global majority community of arts and homelessness. And we are launching 3 hubs in February 5th, 6th, 7th on the back of that, in Latin America, in Africa, and in Middle East and Asia. It's a free network. It'll meet 4 times a year. Anyone is welcome to join those wonderful communities.
Great.
Thank you so much. It's lunch in London, and we'll see you at 2 o'clock for funding in arts and homelessness and a different kind of climate.